sitting here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 59. I just realized that I didn't leave the windows open, so it might be a little different coloration in here.
Lighting?
What to see? Yeah, a little different lighting.
You can
So
jump up and open them if you want.
yeah, probably not. Maybe later. So I guess we should probably pay attention to everybody out there. Hello, everybody. Did I mention it's Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 59?
Yeah.
Do-over. So just want to thank you guys for joining us today. We've got...
Oh, I thought you were doing like the ending of a
And
video.
we're done.
You're about ready to do a closing.
I'm not that automatic.
Oh my goodness, it's been a long day,
It
you
has.
guys.
We're going to share some of this, but just want to thank you guys for. We're going to get this show on the road, so just want to thank you guys for joining us today. We've got a lot of things to cover with you guys. That's all I was going to say.
I need a drink.
You might need to drink for me too. We've got a taste testing that's going to be coming up. We will explain what those are here in just a few. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But we've got a couple of housekeeping notes we need to cover with you before we do that. So housekeeping note number one would be what?
If you have a question you would like answered in front of your question, just write the word question, preferably in caps. And that way it stands out to me and I hopefully don't miss it.
Yeah, Lori will be down there in the chat with you guys, so she'll be interacting with you. She sees, all the stuff going on, and we're going to ask you for some information today, so hopefully you're going to be able to be a part of the podcast. But if you have a question, definitely make sure you, all caps, that is going to help Lori find those questions to make sure we can get those answered. And then housekeeping note number two would be give us a thumbs up. So if you guys enjoy the content that we have here, particularly this podcast, giving us a thumbs up definitely will help out. So before we get to the topic of the day, we'll let everybody kind of get here. We got a few of you out there. We're going to give us a few more minutes to make sure everybody's here. So we've got a quick agenda that we always follow, and we try to give you guys at least one highlight from the week. We've got a couple written down. What's the first one?
First one is the apple harvest is done.
Yes. And you know what? I just realized we did not get a picture of all those apples on that countertop. Never did.
We didn't?
Nope. I don't think we did. So we'll get a picture up on Instagram and Facebook for you guys of just some of the apples. You're going to see them here a little bit later. But we had our best apple harvest so far. One of the things that we are definitely finding is the trees are alternate bearing. Really, it seems like all the varieties seem to be. But they're not on the same year, which is good for us because we would have way too much fruit. But I know one of the things that we had considered when it came to our apples is doing a U-pick. You may not know, this year we started our U-pick with peaches. And so we had a handful of folks come out, kind of did a test run there. We do plan on hopefully doing the same thing with mulberries. And then this time of year, it would be apples if people wanted to brave the heat. But the apple harvest was fantastic. The apples that you see here, these are actually two different Anna apples. If you can imagine, this thing is massive, you guys. I mean, it is as big as a softball, maybe a little bit bigger. You can see kind of shaped almost like a Red Delicious or something. And then this is also one, so off of the same tree. You can see that red tinge, that red blush. So we're going to do a taste testing of these, see how they do. This year we let them go almost fully ripe. End of June is when those are fully ripe. And we wanted to have some more sugar content because we're going to be doing the vast majority of them into wine. So more sugar on the tree means less sugar we have to add to increase the alcohol content. Either way, all of those are harvested. So those trees are breathing easy. Now they don't have to try to make babies. All they need to do is grow.
Yep.
So what else?
We finished up our spaghetti squash harvest.
Oh,
as well.
yes, that's right. So this time of year is mega harvesting season. You can attest to that, right? We seem to keep finding mega squashes and mega pickled cucumbers. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're small one day and then like 2 days will go by and you're like, oh, I need to go check that, and it's this big.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's way too big. So, but we've got a lot of tomatoes coming off the trees. We got a lot of that kind of stuff happening. And so that kind of leads into our topic of the day, which is, hey, you're harvesting all of these things. There's still more fruit harvest coming in July into August, especially with our figs. But is there anything we can plant at this point? So let's say you don't have that bumper harvest that you're trying to get through right now. You're trying to figure out, hey, can I plant something now that maybe it's going to be ripe here within the next couple of months getting into fall? Is there some things that we can be planting now? And we are going to be talking about that today. So before we do, one last update. So the pole barn, we've been talking about that. Lori is working on editing the video still. One of these days, hopefully she'll have it done. It's going to be a little bit longer. We're going to give you guys a lot of detail. We're really proud of how this livestock pole barn turned out. And today we spent several hours in there running additional water because we're running. We had George come in and stub everything out. We're running the water so we can get it on both sides of the enclosure, and we'll have basically running water throughout that pole barn. So everybody's on automatic water. There's always water there. So we don't have to be concerned about that. So we should wrap that up tomorrow. We got a big push on that today. Got the big pigs water in, and all we need is just the Cooney water, and we're going to put a dog water back there. So we'll share more of that with you guys. You'll see that here shortly. So, okay, I think we are ready. Is there any quick questions before we get into the topic of the day?
Yeah, so Eric is asking, I know they tend to be on the bitter side from what I've heard, but are your Annas or Golden Dorsets more bitter than, say, a Granny Smith? I wouldn't say they're bitter at all.
No.
Tart. But
maybe you meant tart.
Maybe, so, maybe tart. But
I wouldn't say they're more tart than a Granny Smith.
No, though. I think a Granny Smith is actually probably a little bit more tart than Anna and Dorset. Yeah,
and we've got hang in there, Eric. Usually do. So we're gonna do a taste test. We've got an Anna that's almost completely perfectly ripe. There's a little bit of green tinge, and then I've got one that's definitely underripe, but it was we're clearing off the tree for wine, so we wanted to get them all harvested. So you can see, very very green, not quite as dark. I guess you get some Granny Smiths.
So maybe that,
right?
So that is a good, a close color to a Granny Smith. Maybe a little lighter. So when we try that, we'll see if it.
Versus that one right there.
If it's more tart than the one that's fully ripe.
Yeah, we'll have to see, and whether or not it's mealy. They tend to be pretty mealy when they get fully ripe.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give it a shot, though. You guys will see here in a minute. All right, we're ready to start.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you said yes, tart.
Yeah.
Yep. So, okay, planting. So if you guys are here in Arizona, you know that last week we got a taste of what's normal here in June. Actually, it can get even hotter than that. But, we're in the mid 110s, so we're at about 115-ish. I think out here we're at about 113 or so, so we got pretty darn hot out here as well. Obviously, we do a lot of things to take care of animals, but, the trees are still cranking everything out. But the question that I got was whether or not somebody could start planting some crops in preparation for fall. And I answered them back and realized, this is probably a good topic and one that I think you guys can definitely help us with. So I've got several things here that I know we've had success with planting here over the next month. If you guys have some suggestions, please make sure you drop them into the comment section, because as folks view this and listen to this as we move forward, you guys are going to be a part of it, so we can really give everybody an idea of some things that could be planted right now in the month of June and July. So we're going to kind of focus on the next 2 to 3 weeks as we get into the monsoon season, the beginning of the monsoon season. So I think the first one that I have down, which is very, very consistent for us with planting really kind of throughout the summer months, are legumes. So your beans. Now, there are 2 beans that we have focused on here that we basically put it into, it's perennial for us because they come back on their own. It's our Tapari beans and our cowpeas. So, and the cowpea is basically a black-eyed pea is the best way. That really essentially what that is. A cowpea is a black-eyed pea. So the version that we have is a red bean, so it doesn't look like that black-eyed pea, but it's still the same bean. So that is what we have used as a cover crop. It's also what we use as cover crops in basically all of our garden beds, with the exception of something else that you can plant now. We'll be talking about here in just a minute. but they're a great cover for the beds as they go to sleep for other crops here in the fall. So we have beds that we plant in the fall. Usually we're growing onions and garlic, pretty much always do that. And then we have some squashes and whatnot that we'll plant here pretty soon. So we want to make sure we have those beds available. So in the interim, we'll plant cowpeas and or tapari beans, and those will completely fill those beds very, very easily. Still get a harvest on those, so we will harvest the ripe beans. In fact, it looks like we got some cowpeas we could probably harvest here over the next week or two. And we get a second harvest typically in the late fall going into winter. We'll also get another harvest off of those. So legumes, definitely a fantastic crop. You can absolutely be planting right now, so you don't actually need to wait. We're going to talk, a few of these are going to be wait a couple weeks before the monsoons are here, but this particular one, you don't need to wait. We have cowpeas and tapari beans that basically come up on their own in almost every single bed in our garden area because we've planted one or the two. The tapari beans completely take over.
Did you see
beds.
that they are actually growing over by the grapevines?
Yes, I did. So, and they're massive.
It's growing up the T-post.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to talk about that, but you're absolutely right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Kind of to your point, they're coming up on their own.
I mean, how did it get over there?
Who knows? Probably flung out of a. So when we're breaking open those bean pods, they fling sometimes.
Yeah.
So two of them wound up in there. So I left the one in there, even though the problem that we have is the grapevines that it's growing around are brand new. So those are brand new grapevines. So we're going to probably have to wind up pulling those because they're going to compete against brand newly planted grapevines. But either way, legumes, definitely a fantastic one. The second one, and the reason that we have this topic today, is sorghum. So it is a cereal grass, kinda. So it's basically milo. So you'll see it named as milo. The sorghum Sudan grass, kind of a different version of said milo. We've had very good success with planting that with the monsoon season. So we may not plant it today. In fact, we won't be. But we had most of it not take when we planted it in May. So we're going to be coming back with the monsoon season next month and get some additional sorghum Sudan grass planted in our turkey pasture. It is our primary grain source for our Thanksgiving turkeys. And while we do have some growing in there, it didn't come in heavy enough. And so we're going to come back and plant sorghum. Again, wait for a few weeks. You want to plant that during the monsoon season. So typically that's about now, although it's too dry for that right now. But once you start seeing the clouds around the valley, that's a good time. You can start planting really any of the things that we're going to be talking about here today. So next one that I have written down is what? I can't read it from here.
Sweet potatoes.
Oh, yes, sweet potatoes. How could I forget? So we have 4 areas. Well, technically it's 2 areas, but we have 3 beds that will always have sweet potatoes in them. Always. Because once you plant them in a bed, chances are high you'll always have them in said bed. Because we don't freeze hard enough to ruin the roots. So, a tiny little root in the bed is going to come rip-roaring back once you get into late spring into summer. These plants, I'll tell you what, are just monsters. They will take over areas.
Yeah.
And we have them in 3 dedicated beds. Right now, we're fighting off the sweet potato vines so we can get our last few harvests of some tomatoes that we plant in there. We do find that we can interplant before the sweet potatoes come up. Squashes are typically what we're going to be doing. We do the same thing with the taparis because we know the taparis are going to come up now, and then the sweet potatoes come back in. So we don't harvest the sweet potato roots, and main reason, they're pretty high in carbohydrates. You guys know we're a low carb house here, so we pretty much leave those in. We deal mainly with the greens, and the greens are an excellent fodder. So not only do they cover the ground, but they're an excellent fodder. The goats love, actually most of the animals will eat them.
The ducks love them.
The ducks plow through them.
All the animals.
The pigs will eat them. So our poultry will eat them. So a great source there. And obviously, if you're going to be harvesting the roots, you'll be doing that here in a couple months anyway, and you can plant them now. What I will tell you, if you're going to be planting slips, chances are good you'll probably have really good success without anything extra. However, slips can be a little delicate. So if you're planting rooted slips, You're going to probably want to use some shade cloth to protect those, just to make sure that you don't have the sun beating down on them the first day, especially, well, really for the first couple of weeks until they take, and then they're just fine and full blazing sun for all the things we're talking about here today. So what else?
Moringa.
Oh, moringa. So one of the things that we have found is, well, two things. Number one, we don't really like moringa.
Well, we like the
flavor
green powder.
of said moringa.
Well,
So it's really strong.
I'm fine with it in the smoothies.
But yeah, we put it into our smoothies. We're not a big fan of it. We've tried it once cooked, just too green for us. The pods, if you let them get enough pods, which we typically don't, but the pods are actually pretty good. So if you get them nice and green, we eat them like artichokes, and they taste a little bit like an artichoke.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, we don't seem to get around to harvesting from the moringas, and they don't tend to be very good shade trees unless you give them a lot of water. So, but if you're going to be doing moringa here in the central part of Arizona, your time to plant is basically about now. I wouldn't do it today, but here over the next couple of weeks, getting into the monsoon season again, as soon as you see the clouds around town on the outskirts of the city, it is time to plant your moringa right away. So we found that the beginning of July, beginning to the middle of July, is the best time to plant moringa and direct seed it into the ground. You get a lot of challenges with transplanting potted moringa. You can have some good success, but we found that the best success that we've had and the trees that are able to withstand the winters and the summers is when we plant it at the beginning of the monsoon season. So it is the prime time to plant moringa. And again, direct seeding is what you want to do. You want to put that directly into the ground. So so that would be a good one. Okay, I think I've got, one more, and then we're going to see if some folks have some suggestions. Again, if you guys have suggestions for what to plant right now, please leave those in the comment section. We're going to call a few of them out here for folks that listen to this as a podcast. So we do have some folks that do. I think one of these days we're going to have to put it on a podcast stream, which right now it's just on YouTube. But I had a couple people reach out about that, actually, asking if we were on. Anyways. So, but the last one that I have written down with my notes was what? One of our favorites.
Okra.
Blah.
He even put gross next to it.
Yeah, so we're not fans.
There are people that like okra.
It's okay. There's people that don't like apples, that think apples are gross. I think that's weird, but that's okay. But no, okra, we've given it a shot. Well, we've done it once. We might try it again. We've still got some seeds. But we have found that okra planting again with the monsoon season, we're pretty much right at about the monsoon time frame. So it's almost now, but it's pretty much going to be here over the next couple of weeks. But okra, it's a fantastic time to plant okra. It will grow right through the summertime, and it will produce for you abundant, slimy veggies or fruit, technically. But it'll give you a whole lot of those in through the fall. So we had very good success with growing that and planting it basically right now. What's up?
Nothing.
Oh. So, okay. So that's my list. Now, obviously, when we're talking about planting, right now we're really kind of focused on the monsoon season. Monsoon planting is a thing. That was the indigenous cultures that were here in Arizona. That was a planting time for them. Obviously a harvesting time now and a planting time again. So the fact that we have that moisture that comes in predominantly from the south, because we have this great opportunity to get some things into the ground. And it's the one big difference between the Sonoran Desert and some of the other deserts that are around in the Southwest. We have that moisture in the middle of our summer season, and that moisture brings the temperatures down just a touch. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And then that moisture in the air allows for some of these things. And it's also why you'll see a lot of green. You know, you drive through the desert of Nevada, areas of California, there's almost nothing, maybe some scrub. Here, you guys know we've got, our massive saguaro cactuses. We have trees, mesquite trees that will grow wild here as well. And so we have some green here in Arizona. And it's that monsoon season that allows that to happen. So we can utilize that season that's essentially upon us to do some planting. Now, as we get into the month of August, you really need to start planting some of your fall crops. So we're not going to talk about that today, but there are several crops, especially if you're going to be direct seeding anything into the ground. August is your month. So, a lot of like your melons, if you're going to do that, your vining squashes, so like your winter squash, you get that second season, we get the spring season, and then we get the fall season. You can be planting those out once we come into August. A little bit too early, generally speaking, for those right now. Okay, so I'm done talking.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was pretty easy. So see if we have any questions or any suggestions from the guys out there.
So we have a few questions on here. First one, RSI was going to use a mineral type of spray on his fruit trees this year to try and save his trees. Do you use such a thing? And if so, the name?
Short answer, no. So we don't put anything on the trees to try to shade them chemically from the sun. So we don't do anything like that. No, I don't know what he's going to use, but I know he lost 70% of his inventory last summer. So he really struggled with that. Now realize he's growing in pots, so we're not. All of our trees are in the ground, and so we talked last week about our irrigation schedule. That really is the key. Besides mulch, is making sure you got your irrigation schedule dialed in. I know we've increased our irrigation in our eastern orchard mainly because of our figs, and the figs look great.
Yeah.
So, and we have what looks to be or should be probably the best fig harvest we've had since we've been here. And that was specifically because we increased the water. But otherwise, no, we don't do anything to shade the trees from the sun.
So you have any rabbit protection on your legumes? I planted some tapari, and the minute they germinated, rabbits ate them. And our sweet potatoes a tuber below ground? I heard they do well.
Yes, so sweet potatoes are a tuber. Basically, it's a potato, but yeah, it's a tuber underneath the ground, and the greens vine. So unlike a potato, where you basically just get a bush, the sweet potatoes actually produce a vine. So you have multiple vines that come out of the ground, and they will keep growing all summer long. So we trim them back constantly and feed them to our animals. You can eat them, so they're definitely edible. We generally don't, but you definitely can. And and the sweet potatoes, again, do fantastic in the heat. They are that's a heat-loving plant. So it does not do well in the cold at all. So, but you can plant it by either a slip that you can grow from basically a potato. So you can grow slips in water. We've got videos on it. You can easily find them on that content on YouTube. But very easy to grow slips, and then you plant the rooted out slips into the ground basically now for the next month or so. And you'll get your harvest. So if you're going to be harvesting the tubers, that's typically in the fall. It's about 90 to 120 days from planting if you're going to plant a slip. So.
And as far as the rabbits, we have our tapari beans actually in our garden beds that have bird netting on them, so the rabbits actually can't get up into them.
Right, and the tapari beans we had just mentioned that are growing in with the grapevines are actually behind a fence.
Fenced off.
Yeah. So we had to fence the dogs out.
Yeah, we had to fence off the grapevines from the dogs, which are keeping the rabbits out of there.
Right. And the dogs also are not fans of they hate rabbits. And so we see rabbits from time to time. But did you get a picture of Theo the other day with that one rabbit?
I did.
Oh, you guys are going to have to check out Instagram. We'll get that up on Instagram and Facebook, but so we've got a picture of cats doing what they do best, which is taking out varmints.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys would be able to see it on here.
Yeah, that's okay. So we'll post it. You guys, just check it out. We'll get it posted hopefully today. But either way, our rabbit pressure is a fraction of what it used to be.
Way down. A
fraction. And part of that is because our cats, when the rabbits are small, even if it's a nest, I don't mind seeing it, as horrible as it sounds, but it's nature. They will demolish a nest as soon as they find it. And they do eat said baby rabbits. And then Sasha absolutely hates rabbits.
Yeah.
So she will not let she doesn't let them get on the property. They'll try, but we've just found that we have fewer and fewer, really this year.
A lot fewer. I mean, rarely see them.
Yep. Now, the other thing that can be a challenge is birds. So quail specifically, especially with any new shoots. So we're challenged with quail. So that is our biggest challenge, is actually birds and quail in particular. So those will come and they'll start munching on that. And then, of course, ground squirrels. Ground squirrels will do the exact same thing. So our beds are fully enclosed, bottom and top, to keep all of those critters out.
Do you use bamboo? If so, would you plant now?
So we do not use bamboo. We have its cousin, sugarcane, and we don't really use it at all. In fact, if hindsight, probably wouldn't have planted it, but it was a gift for us. So we kind of got it in a few spots, and we haven't really done the harvesting, and
we didn't harvest it at all this year.
No, we didn't touch it. So, but as far as planting time, that is definitely spring. So it turns brown in the wintertime and stops growing, but it is really more of a tropical grass. It doesn't like our cold winters, and so best time to plant that is in the spring. So typically when we're planting either the segments, so basically cuttings that we'll put into the ground or pot, we're typically transplanting those or planting those direct in like March, once we're past the frost. So a little late for that. Could you? You probably can, but you're going to definitely need to give it some shade in the beginning. Eventually you won't have to. They do fine out here with plenty of water. They'll grow like gangbusters all summer long.
So Eric was saying that the mineral type that was asked about earlier, that it might have been that kaolin? Kaolin?
Yeah, the clay.
Mm-hmm. Or surround.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and especially with all of his inventory, his potted inventory. I mean, hello, we all depend on him to have that inventory. I mean, because then you get stuff like this, because obviously his trees do amazing, but the inventory's been rough because he lost them all.
So we have Chase from California near Barstow that there is a huge or big pistachio orchard.
Yes.
600 to 800 chill hours every winter.
Yep. Yeah. And so we've got our pistachio. We've got 3 pistachio trees, a male and 2 females, and obviously they haven't produced. But we did notice it took them forever to come out of dormancy this year because we got very few chill hours. In fact, we're gonna have to do a video on this once we get back to filming regularly. But the lack of chill hours definitely affected some trees here this year, and we saw it firsthand. So we're gonna need to share that with you guys because there's been a lot of discussion about whether chill hours matter or not. We know for a fact they do, and so we're gonna share that with you guys and kind of show you. We'll be able to physically show you, We'll be able to show you what a severe lack of chill hours does to a tree that would otherwise fruit. So, but anyways, back to that, pistachios. We have the Golden Hill. I
think so.
I believe.
Sounds
so.
Familiar.
The Randy is the male. I never forget that. But because Randy is the male, right? But the Golden Dorset, the Golden Hills pistachio has a lower chill hour requirement. So I know a lot of orchards in California have switched to that. And there's some other challenges with like rootstock and whatnot. We do notice that here too. Not that it doesn't grow, it does grow just fine, but the rootstock is actually smaller than the scion, so it does look kind of weird, and we'll kind of see how it does, especially in some of the winds. I don't know how that's going to do. So far, they've been fine though. We haven't got any flowering or anything, and again, this year, severe lack of chill hours. They really struggled just to break dormancy. So, I mean, they broke dormancy just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, not too long ago.
No, which is nuts. And they're doing fine. So they're growing well, but
yeah. How are the tomatoes? I'm guessing that's Jennifer out there.
So yeah, Jennifer, thank you for the tomatoes. They will be in dinner tonight.
Yep, I just cut up a bunch of them. Every one of them took. So I have too many tomatoes.
A lot of tomatoes. We don't use tomatoes very often, so we're finding ways to use tomatoes.
Yeah, the trellising was a little challenging, especially since they're in the sweet potato. Most of them are in the sweet potato bed, so I've been having to kind of clear sweet potatoes to give them space, and then they just get so big. But
so when you say clear sweet potatoes, you hacked them back.
I basically cut all the greens out, fed it to the animals, and now it's all filled back in.
And sweet potatoes are amazing.
Completely filled back in, but yeah, if not, they would overtake the tomatoes
in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
we were able to get harvest off of basically every one.
Yeah.
So those little finally figured out with Jennifer. I don't remember if you gave us the little purple one or not. So
yeah, she did.
I thought so. So that one did really, really well. We were just struggling trying to figure out when they were ripe.
There was a lot that were new varieties
Yep.
for us, so we're like, is this ripe? Is this not? Is it supposed to be this color? Yeah.
Yeah. So we had there was a cherry tomato. I don't like eating tomatoes fresh. So we cook with tomatoes, salsa and stuff. But I just had one and I'm like, ooh, that was very good. Very, very sweet.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, yeah, they're doing great. Eventually, we're gonna probably have to. Well, the sweet potatoes are gonna just take them out. So it's getting close, but and they're kind of they're struggling to ripen at this point. So we'll see. We'll see how long we can get them to go.
Yeah, I didn't do very good on the trellis thing either.
That's okay. They're still there.
Would you recommend guavas in Zone 9A, Central Mojave Desert, California, near Barstow? We get 600 to 800 chill hours, and this year had a 20-year low of 19 degrees.
No, short answer. Don't do it.
Nope.
So you will
unless you wanna give them a heat source and
yeah, you will have to
give them a heat source.
They will have to have an actual heat source in the wintertime. So we lost our guavas here, killed them back to the ground, and they probably would have come back from the ground. I'm pretty sure at least one of them probably would have, but it killed it all the way to the ground. Tree was, I don't know, 7 feet tall, 6 or 7 feet tall, probably about as wide, 5 to 7 feet wide. Had 2 of them, big, beautiful trees up there. And they both completely died. We hit, I think, 26 degrees, 27 degrees.
And we did cover them.
And they were covered. So these trees we were diligent about covering these trees because they were right up at the front of the house. And it killed them all the way back. So, and that was, again, 20, I want to say, I don't remember the exact low, but it was in the mid 20s. We were above 25 degrees and it killed those trees. So, yeah. So they'll take a lot of protection for you there in Barstow.
Did you grow, and I don't even know what that name is, beans?
I'm not sure.
Lab?
Oh. Blab beans?
Lab.
No, we haven't grown.
Haven't heard of those. How is your nursery doing?
Nursery's doing good. So the figs I just saw it today. The figs look really good. We got a handful of Shangri-La mulberries left. What do we have?
We have 7 Shangri-Las and 3 Pakistans left.
Right. So the Shangri-La mulberries always struggle in the middle of summer, and they're starting to yellow a little bit. I noticed that today. So might need to give them. We actually probably need to fertilize those a little bit. So just to get them into fall. I doubt we'll have any left after our our fall farm tour. But the figs actually look really good. So they're nice and green.
Oh, I guess it was. I don't know. Keep the ones you like alive, and you will get a bountiful fall crop. The tomatoes.
Oh yes, I know. I would really love to get one through the summer. So we might. We'll see. Especially if the monsoon season does well.
If I can have the time to go in there and like give them some attention, we probably could.
Yeah, you're probably not gonna have the time to do that. We were just talking about this last night. So we with the exception of the first 2 to 3 years, when we were putting the whole farm together, we really try to shut down at a couple times of the year. We try to shut down in the month of December, and we basically really scale way back in June, July, and August for obvious reasons before the fall season kicks back in with livestock and stuff. So the pole barn was supposed to be done. We thought it was going to be done by spring, and we are still working on it. So it's been a little frustrating, not going to lie, to be working out there all day. I mean, we were scrambling to try to get some stuff done today, and then we've got probably a whole day tomorrow, and we've got apples, wine, we got all kinds of stuff going on. So it's hard to just keep up with the normal day-to-day when projects like that push into the summertime, it becomes difficult. So lesson, don't start massive projects like that in Well, we have to do
January?
it. I know, we have to do it in January. We got chewed out by our accountant for splitting up some capital expense. Oh, I won't get too far into the weeds business-wise, but anyways.
We're just complaining.
Yeah. So that's all. Okay.
Let us complain.
Yeah. So any other suggestions from anybody that we need to call out?
No.
Or is it time for a little bit of
Let's do
taste
the
testing?
tasting, yeah.
Okay, very good. So one of the things that we have found here, well, first of all, fun fact about Edge of Nowhere Farm, maybe one of the key reasons why we started the farm when we did. I was working for a supplement company, had a customer come in and brought me a bag full of these small little orchard apples. I was working in Paradise Valley and asked him where he got them because they just tasted amazing. Really small though, so they were about the size of a Granny Smith, maybe a little smaller, a small Granny Smith. But they were very, very good. I remember bringing them home, and you're like, oh, hey, apples. So he came back. I'm like, hey, where did you get these apples? I'm assuming he went up north or whatever, not having any clue whatsoever that apples would grow in the middle of the city. The only thing we had in the backyard at the time was a lemon tree. And this was 2009. I think it was 2009 or 2010, right around then. So I tried these apples, and they were fantastic. Well, it turns out it was a Golden Dorset apple. Did not know that, but it was a Golden Dorset. And of course, seeing the size now, I know why they were so small, right? Because didn't thin. But it is one of the reasons that we're here today. So one of the reasons you're seeing us today, it was that interaction with a guy 15, 16 years ago. So kind of put us on this journey of finding apple trees to plant, and then we're here today. So the first tree we planted was a Golden Dorset. After we tasted that. Second tree we planted was an Anna apple. Do you remember where we got both of those trees? Which both struggled?
Probably Home Depot.
No, it was Moon Valley Nursery. Can we say that out loud?
Oh, we went there?
We went there. So either way, so we got them there. One tree died almost immediately because we let it get sunburned. We learned our lesson right away. And then the other tree it gave us a crop. But it really struggled. So either way, so the Anna apples, you guys know we've talked about our two primary apples here, the Golden Dorset, which is our number one apple. It's the one that I would suggest if you're going to plant a single tree because it does very well. They're both self-fruitful, but it does a little better than the Anna in our experience and is a more consistent producer, would be the Golden Dorset. However, you can see the size. Well, hopefully you can make this out. I don't have anything for reference, but this guy here, again, I don't know. Here's my head. But you can see it's probably, about 3 to 4 inches tall, would you say? And then probably about 3 inches in diameter. Yeah. Give or take. So there's a look at it. You can see it's kind of, again, shaped more like a Red Delicious where it kind of tapers down. This guy here's got a similar size to it. But one of the things we noticed was the apple that I tried 16, 15 years ago was definitely underripe. It wasn't fully ripe. And we made the first mistake of our first harvest, allowing it to go to the end of June. You can see here the Anna gets a red blush on it. Not always, but sometimes it has kind of a yellowish green color. You can see it gets almost completely yellow. You can definitely see it hopefully on that there. And so this apple is pretty well ripe. And then this guy here, you can see definitely probably a week or so behind. Bigger apple, and we needed to get the tree cleared off, so we went ahead and did both. Okay, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to cut this open. So the first one I'm going to cut open is the green one. And I'm glad we harvested this. Look at that brown at the top. So that was starting to get kind of some sun damage. So again, the lighting's going to be weird, but it looks like an apple and smells like just a beautiful apple. Man, this apple is huge, honey.
You know, it's so there's a comment on here, and it's someone that's on here all the time, and it's Brain Hunter. I always thought that said Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I just realized, I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't say Brian. It says Brain Hunter.
Yeah. So you have to tell us why. So
Sorry that I
YouTube
always
tag?
call you Brian.
So this almost looks like potato or something. It's like perfectly white.
It does, yeah.
So, huh.
See if you can get a crunch in there.
Okay.
Not mealy, so that's good.
Not mealy at all. If I had to liken this to another apple, one that everybody would recognize, it's a Granny Smith.
But it's not as tart as a Granny Smith.
No, you're right. Granny Smith is a lot more tart, but this makes, by the way,
Very close.
this makes a fantastic apple pie. We got to make sure we set aside some apples for a keto apple cobbler or something.
Yeah.
But either way, very good. So I would say more tart than sweet. Would you agree
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah.
Got a lot of apple here. You want to eat the rest of this? That was huge. Okay, that is probably about a week or so from being ripe. My guess is end of June, maybe even beginning of July. That apple will be completely ripe and probably look something very similar to this. So instead of having the green tinge that you guys see here, much like a Granny Smith or a Golden Delicious, it's going to have, again, actually a Golden Delicious is kind of yellowish when it's fully ripe. But you see that red blush that the Anna sometimes gets. These are both Annas, by the way. So you can see no blush at all. And this one's got some blush to it. So in this one here is almost fully ripe. There's a little bit of green you can see there. Hopefully you can make that out on camera. But it has mainly yellow. It's got the red blush, which was the sunny side. And it is really, really close. So I'm going to try to get the spot here that's yellow-red. Did I get it? I did.
Nice.
I'll tell you what, it's actually, this is looking pretty darn good. Here, try that one right there. Cheers.
I was expecting it to be mealy, and it's not.
It's not mealy.
And it's not. I don't have really any tart.
There's almost no tart.
Ooh, that's good, you guys.
Okay. I'm not sure I've actually had a perfectly ripe Anna apple. I don't think I have. Oh, no.
That might compete with the Tropic Sweet.
You know, one of the things we've noticed with the Tropic Sweet is it's kind of, I'm having another piece. We skipped breakfast and lunch today, so it's time to eat.
All we've had is a smoothie and a cheese stick.
Yep, and a beef stick. No.
Oh, that's right, a beef stick also.
Sorry, guys, we're going to snack here. You guys want to go ahead and take care of the rest of this? I appreciate that.
We do have some questions on here, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll get to the questions.
Go long.
No, but, oh, wow. Guys, I'll tell you right now. If you can get, this is the sweet spot with the Anna.
This is, yeah.
Because we've had mealy Annas that are fully ripe, that look like that, and they've been mealy. Yeah. This is not. And this came off the tree yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's about as fresh as it can possibly get. Oh, wow. This needs to turn into some apple pie.
Really good.
All right. What are our questions?
Do you guys have rocks? I have an extremely rocky, silty soil, if you can call it that. I dream a dense food forest, and then down a little bit more. My only idea is to endlessly remove rocks from soil, hoping it will allow trees to be planted and grow normally. Any advice or ideas?
Okay, so you're going to have to clarify how dense the rocks are. So how much rocks versus how much silt. Also, let me know where you're at. So, I mean, there are areas like that here throughout the valley, but it's not as common as the clay that we have. That can definitely be mixed with rocks. The other part is if you're in or near a wash, you'll have some river rock that's going to be further down. So that's a little different as well because you have our soil mixed in with the river rocks. So you're going to have to let me know. Okay, I'm going to take this two ways. I'm going to say the first one where you need a stick of dynamite because it's solid rock. There's nothing you can do about that besides excavate. There really isn't another way unless you bring in soil is an option, or you start building soil on top of said rocks. So now that's going to take some time because it's going to take wood chip mulch, probably some type of compost material, and water in order to do that effectively here in the desert. Because wood chips alone will not break down at all. We've noticed that, especially if it's too thick. So if you're going to do that, you're going to need to keep it thinner, maybe no more than about a foot or so. Ideally, you would have something to compost with it. So some type of nitrogen, because those are usually heavy carbon. At least once they dry out, they will be. And so, manures work fantastic that way. So, like a chicken manure or something like that, or, scraps, if you can get a hold of those. Obviously you need to make quite a bit. And if you're trying to plant trees, it needs to be pretty deep. And so if it was me, I would probably be bringing in soil. And again, it can just be good old fashioned dirt. It doesn't have to be anything special. And actually just go ahead and plant on top of that. So there's a few folks out there that plant that way. In fact, our first home in the city, we were basically on a granite. We're on the side of a mountain, and it was basically granite. The only thing we were growing in was all the fill dirt, which was about a foot or so. So we still had an Anna apple. We had sisu trees. We had some other things. The roots and fruit tree roots will grow out for you, but they do need a couple feet of soil in order to do that. So you may need to basically make raised beds or something similar for your trees. So that is something folks do. In fact, I don't know if I haven't seen Kevin here today, but Kevin's got something similar that he battles with, and then sandy soil. And he's kind of up on his backyard is at an angle, and he's built in planter beds that he has all of his fruit trees in, and they're doing fantastic in Nevada, in Vegas. So that would definitely be an option as well. Okay, that's scenario one, i.e. can't get through. Scenario number two, we were talking a little bit about basically being near a wash and having a lot of river rock. We had that at the old farm, not a problem at all. So you'll need to take the rocks out as you're planting. So you may need have a little fill dirt to plant back in, but those trees will do just fine going through your river rock. In fact, there's some advantage, because one of the things that we found is that we had trees that always seemed to do better closer to the wash. I can only assume it's because it had just better soil from having the water run through. So that would be the second scenario. And with that scenario, you don't need to bring in a whole lot of soil. The tree roots will find their way around all of those rocks. And if you have something in between, you might need to do a little bit of both. So you still may need to build up if it's just way too dense. And if it's, a lot more rocks than soil, you may need to do some excavation. As long as there's enough soil for the roots to basically get in and around the rocks and everything. Fruit tree roots are amazing in that they will find a place to survive, just like all living things do. They're all finding a way to survive. Fruit tree or trees in general are also going to do the same thing. So as long as they have moisture and they're in the right climate and something to hold on to, so dirt and or rocks, as long as there's both in there. Well, I should say dirt and rocks. So as long as you have both of those components, they're going to be okay. So.
Yeah, there's, I think it's the same person. Oh, I'm not going to try to find it. Is the blush side the sun-facing side, or not necessarily?
Yes. So the blush side is the sun-facing side. So, in fact, I don't know that I'm pretty confident probably the one that was solid green was probably in the center of the tree, in the middle of the tree.
Probably.
Wasn't getting any sunlight. So the sunlight definitely helps ripen. It helps ripen and helps with that sugar content. So, and the heat really is the key with the sugar content. So the heat is what allows that. But the blush is definitely the sunny side. Another reason why we prune the trees the way we do. So we want to try to get light penetration wherever we can, because you can see it helps with fruit ripening. Apples included.
And Brain Hunter, his name is Brian Hunt.
Oh, hey!
At least I didn't get your name wrong, even though I was reading it wrong for so long. I don't see very well, so.
I got a drinking problem. I don't have the drinking problem.
Do you plant late season peppers?
We do not. So all of our pepper plants, which are cranking out a ton of peppers.
Oh my goodness, we're getting so many peppers.
But all of those are usually we always plant those in the spring. So I think we had a couple that were kind of late spring, so got a little behind and struggled a little bit. Now they're cranking out. Cranking out peppers. So I will tell you, peppers, we've really started eating a lot more spicier food. So you went a long time without being able to eat spicy food. Changed our diet, and lo and behold, oh my goodness, digestion problems go away.
Indigestion.
So either way, so the peppers though, we have just been having a blast adding spicy into everything. You made some hot sauce yesterday.
Yes, we had so many jalapenos and different peppers, and so I made a green hot sauce.
Yep. But back to the question.
It's really spicy.
Yes, but it tastes good. But to answer your question, no, we don't plant them late. We plant them in the spring. So if we're missing something, you got to let us know. One of the things that I will say, so the jalapenos with pepper plants in general, as long as you can get them through the winter, they come out of the spring and they start producing right away. And we noticed that this year we lost our jalapenos down to the ground, right?
And they came back.
And they immediately started putting on fruit, and we've just had a bumper crop after bumper crop. And then we did learn, had a podcast mentor that had talked about the fact that you need to make sure you're harvesting those peppers. Harvesting them induces the plant to put on more peppers. And we've been diligent about harvesting them, and we keep getting more.
And more.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Talk about fruitful.
Yeah, your apples look and sound fantastic. My Anna's and Tropic Sweet are still very small and unripe. Am I just being cheap on the watering 45 gallons a week?
Yes, that is definitely on the light side, depending on how old the trees are. So we're at 60 gallons. Unless we get rain in the wintertime, we're at 60 gallons every week. At least 60 gallons.
But
right now, the apple trees are getting 180 gallons. Because those are on the same zone as the figs.
Yeah, so we had increased those to twice a week back in, was it March? February, March? Is that when we did?
I'm busy.
And now, since they're on the same zones as our fig trees, and we wanted our fig trees to have even more water, so our fig trees are on 3 times a week, 60 gallons each watering, and so our apples are now getting that as well. And you also have to make sure you're thinning your apples too. So Jennifer, each cluster, we take it down to only 2 apples per spur on the apple tree. So like in a cluster, we take it down to 2 apples.
Yep. And by the way, these are exceptions. This is not what all of our apples look like.
No.
We've got a whole slew. We got baby ones, even though we thinned. You get sometimes there's 2 little baby apples. Ding, ding. And then right next to it, 2 big apples like this, right next to it. And we got a picture of this, 2 apples, massive, in clumps. And so, because we had mentioned we go down to 2 per spur. Well, you got multiple spurs. So you got a spur up here with 2 massive ones, a spur right here with 2 massive ones, and then a spur in the back with 2 baby ones. So they're literally the same branch. Everything's the same. And then the fruit's just small. So it will vary. These are beasts though. So that is definitely a very, very big fruit. They're generally smaller than that. They're about, they're size of a normal gala. Galas can be pretty big, but a little bit smaller. So yeah, make sure you're giving them enough water though. Especially when trees are trying to ripen fruit, you cannot be stingy with water because they're filling with water to ripen. So now you don't want to put a whole bunch of extra water in either. You can start getting certain fruit can crack, so there can be other issues. But with your apples, they're not going to crack like that. So you can get cracking at the top, but typically they won't. These have gotten a lot of extra water because we didn't have a choice, and you can see they're doing really, really well. So yeah, don't be stingy with the water.
When do you prune your mulberry trees?
Mulberries are pruned in the middle of winter. So typically mulberries, depends on the variety. Our ever-bearing mulberries are one of the first trees to break dormancy. Typically I'm pruning those at the end of the week between Christmas and New Year is when we start pruning here. So we're real busy outside during that week and into the beginning of January. And the ever-bearing and Shangri-La are on my list right away. The black Pakistans, they don't break dormancy till much later. And so those just don't need to be done quite as early, but we're done with all of that sometime in February. So January to February is when we're doing all of our pruning. That includes mulberries.
So I think I got all the questions. Talking about that rock in the soil. So it's kind of a broken pieces of mountain rock. The density of rocks varies. So it was asking large trees in huge pots, maybe.
I wouldn't do them in pots. So you can, but you're going to struggle with pots. So if it was me, so you're asking the question, what would I do? If it was me, I would build a raised bed before I put a fruit tree in a pot. I pretty much don't want fruit trees in pots anymore. So if you do put a fruit tree in a pot, you're going to have to probably give it some shade in the middle of summer, which means you're going to have a taller tree, which you can't grow. So you're going to have to shade it some other way because it's just not going to do well or survive in the middle of summer without shade if it's in a pot. So if it's not, if it's still in the ground up in a raised bed, because remember, it's going to continue to find those cracks and crevices throughout all the rocks and everything as it continues to grow down, you're going to be okay. And it needs to be large. So, when I'm saying a bed, it needs to be like a 10-foot circular raised bed. And it needs to, if you're going to do 2 to 3 blocks high and fill that with a couple feet of soil, that would be the best way to go if the scenario you're describing is the first one I was talking about. You're much better off to go with a raised bed. So because you won't have shade. By design, you can't have shade. The trees are not going to grow up there otherwise. So, yeah.
All
Are we
right.
done?
I think we're caught up.
What? No way.
I think so.
No way.
Oh, just kidding.
Okay.
So there is no summer pruning of mulberries in addition to the winter pruning. My trees are doubled in size since I pruned last winter.
Congratulations.
That's a good thing.
That is a mulberry tree. Yep, they will definitely do that. So it sounds like you have younger trees. You have to let me know. So although they can grow several feet in a year, even established trees. No, we don't do any pruning in the summertime. So we've stopped all of our summer pruning. We used to prune peach trees, and you can get away with it on peaches, kinda. Just gotta be very careful, and the trees will probably struggle. Otherwise, no, don't. There's just no reason to do it. The only exception to pruning mulberry trees is we have if you've got damaged or broken branches. We've had that happen before. Then you'll want to take the damaged branches off. That's true of any tree though. So if you got a damaged branch, you need to get that branch off, especially if it didn't break off completely, because you can start peeling. You could damage the trunk and kill the tree potentially. So make sure if you got damaged branches, take those off. That's really the only time. If you have, I guess, a diseased branch, an obviously diseased branch, you can take that one. I would take that off as well. So, yeah.
So if it's out of control, too big, you wouldn't recommend even at that time taking anything off.
No, because what'll happen is, it sounds like it may be a younger tree. You're going to let me know. So if it's a younger tree, definitely not. If you do, just do very, very little. So tip them back. Don't take big chunks off, because you can potentially put them into shock, and you do that in the middle of summer, you could easily lose a tree, and you don't want to do that. So, yeah. If you're going to break a branch, then, maybe you might want to, but again, it would have to be an extreme circumstance. Otherwise,
they're 4 years and younger.
4 years or younger? Yeah, mm-hmm. So definitely the smaller ones you want to be cautious with. A bigger tree is more forgiving, but just realize that tree is going to struggle to put on new growth, assuming you're here. So if that's the case, it's going to struggle to put on new growth for the next couple of months. And you're losing canopy. So you're removing some of the canopy. That means too much sunlight could potentially be getting into the tree, start damaging the tree. Yeah, it's just not, and again, it's going to slow down in growth, especially your more mature trees as we get into June, July, and August. So further into June and then into July and August. If we get a fantastic monsoon season, totally different story. But, that's real hit or miss. We haven't had a really good monsoon season in several years. If you get a really good monsoon, you'd probably be fine. So, if we get a really good monsoon, I would prune the peach trees again in the summertime, because it's ideal. But we haven't. And we've almost lost a peach tree because of pruning in the summertime.
So basically, winter pruning, just prune it even
prune
heavier.
it further back.
So
Yeah.
further back, heavier, so that it can take that extra growth that it's getting.
Yep, very common for mulberry trees to be either pollarded or coppiced. So traditionally that's happened because they're fodder trees. So they can grow several feet in a year, and it's fantastic. They're great fodder trees because you can cut them back to the ground every year, or you can pollard them, get a trunk, 2, 3, 4 feet or 5 feet tall, and then cut them back, to a couple of arms every year, or cut them coppice it, meaning you cut it all the way back to the ground basically, and then it starts shooting out, several feet worth of growth, and you have all of this great vegetation that you can feed to animals. So, it is an actual thing that people do with mulberries, is to prune them really, really low every year and let them shoot back, because they will. So how are we doing? Time?
Yeah.
We are at it. Guys, an hour went by lickety split. You guys did a great job of filling up the time with questions. One of the things I want to make sure I encourage you guys to do is send some questions in. This podcast, what we do for you guys every week, is really centered around you. We want to make sure that we're being a resource for you guys, and we're answering the questions that you guys have. And this is a great format to do that. Obviously, we do that live, but we typically take questions during the week and we turn them into the podcast. So you never know. You might send a question to us and it winds up being a main topic for one of these podcasts. So you can do that through several means. You got Instagram, Facebook, questions here on YouTube. You can email us. Easy to find that through our website. You can message us through our website. Lori's phone number is all over the internet. So if you want to text her, go for it.
It goes off all day long.
If you want to write a letter and send it that way, sure, go ahead. The address is on the website. Again, you can find us pretty easily. But if you guys can get that in, it would be great. Because again, we want to focus this time around you guys and make sure that we answer your questions. So are we done?
We're done.
Are we all set?
Yeah.
Great. So this has been the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 59. Quick reminder, we have this podcast every Saturday at 2 o'clock Arizona time.
Unless we have a funeral or vacation.
Right, yeah. Or we can't get on because there's a power outage.
Because of power.
Yeah, so that happens too. Besides that, though, we're here every Saturday at 2 o'clock Arizona time. Would love to see you right here. So I think that's about it. Guys, just remember, the most valuable thing we have on the planet is time. You guys choose to spend that with us. We do not take that for granted. Thank you for being here today. And just want to remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.